Good morning. It's Saturday, June 13th, and we're going to continue our discussion on action and problem solving with a prompt from the Daily Stoic which reads, "Am I fulfilling my post in this campaign of life or sleeping while on duty?" So this prompt comes from an analogy that Epictetus makes when he says, "Don't you know life is like a military campaign?" He then talks about the various actions that we must carry out like a soldier and suggests that each person's life is a kind of battle. When I first read this, I had a very difficult time embracing the concept. Establishing the parallel of as in war, so in life seemed to run counter to what I had just proposed we should look for, a non-zero-sum solution, one in which both parties benefit. War is perhaps the starkest example of a zero-sum situation. One side can only win if the other side loses, and the consequences of losing are more severe than anything else imaginable. Then, tied back into the prospect of one side necessarily losing, I struggled again with our analogy of war. After all, the outcome of this metaphorical war, the war of life, has already been determined. It's summed up in the powerful phrase memento mori, or remember that we are mortal. So if we view this life as a war to be waged, yet we are guaranteed to lose, then why even bother fighting? Or at the very least, why don't we look to cut corners along the way? To answer that, we need only look back into history to find examples of some of the most incredible military campaigns undertaken and look for parallels to bring back to our own lives. While I'm positive that there are scores of other very worthy examples, one that we've talked about previously and is very familiar to most because of the movie 300 is the Spartan army in the Battle of Thermopylae. The first comparison to our lives is the essentially predetermined outcome of that battle. King Leonidas and his diminutive army of allied Greeks were virtually assured to lose against the much larger invading Persian forces. Yet they willingly entered the fray, believing their actions and decision to fight, regardless of the outcome, to be in the interest of the greater good of the Greek city-states. And just as we know the outcome of our respective campaign, I don't propose that we adopt a hedonic view of life in the meantime. No, far better, at least in my opinion, would be to emulate the characteristics of those soldiers that they must have upheld until the very end of that battle. Spartan warriors were renowned for their training in, commitment to, and execution of the loftiest of military expectations. In all stations of life, in times of peace and of war, they needed to maintain extreme discipline, demonstrate courage and fortitude, lead with rational thought, and act consistently in the interest of the greater good through selfless behavior and through willing sacrifice. Previously, we've talked about possible epithets for ourselves as a way of defining our ideal identity. All of those requisite Spartan characteristics I just mentioned could easily find their way onto our lists of attributes which we'd like to be remembered for at the conclusion of our campaign. If that's the case, then we'd better consider our actions just as a Spartan would. Once we've defined those core principles, we need to continuously train, work to keep our values close and present, find opportunities to put them to the test, and remain committed to the cause. Knowing the end result of this mortal battle doesn't deter us from pursuing what we believe to be the right course of action. On the contrary, it only strengthens our resolve to remain committed to respond and serve to the best of our abilities while we still can. Hope you have a great day. Bye.